Alignment is super key. It's key for us. It's key for them. And we have got to make sure we've got the alignment before we really start to form what we want to be a lasting relationship. We don't want this to be a one-off, come out to an event, jump on a YouTube, stream something live and then be gone. We want it to be a lasting relationship. And there are times that, we have had connections that we realize on both sides, this isn't going to be the best use of our voice. And I think that is okay. You don't have to align with everyone. And I think that's also part of the unique structure of content creators is having a really strong voice and making sure you're authentic to your community. And not every community totally overlaps.
Sara Bush, Senior Director of Golf Relations at Folds of Honor here on the Content Clubhouse podcast. And Sara, I've been really looking forward to this one. We've, of course, heard from several content creators and influencers and even some of their managers, agents, whatever you want to call them, for these conversations. But I think you're the first representative of the brand side, quote unquote, the businesses that are making deals or utilizing the services of these creators in some aspects. And of course, Folds of Honor is quite a unique organization compared to a lot of others in the golf space, and so is your role within it. So can you give us a quick intro on what Folds of Honor is, how it intersects with the golf space, and kind of your role in all of that?
Absolutely. So thank you, first of all, for having me. And yes, this is a very unique conversation. It's a unique time in the nonprofit world and what people are doing to build their brand. And really, if you take us back with Folds of Honor, to when we were founded in 2007, we have been very, very heavy in the golf space. We were founded by Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, who is not only a fighter pilot, but he is also a PGA professional. And he really realized the need for educational funding for the dependents of military service members who either have fallen or been disabled in the line of duty. And what he did very soon after realizing that he wanted to start this mission is he turned to the people he knew best in the community that is so giving and patriotic. And it was the golf community. And he really rallied the PGA of America as the first partner with Folds of Honor to come on board and fundraise to help provide this funding really for these kids' education, and created something known as Patriot Golf Day. And Patriot Golf Day spread across the golf industry, really heavy in the PGA of America space. So PGA members stepping forward at their facilities and saying, hey, I want to do something with golf. And from there, it was just an accelerator. Dan says that everything good that's happened in his life has been because of golf, meeting his wife through golf, playing at Kansas, starting Folds of Honor, and the people and the opportunities that have been provided since then. So we just, a really quick kind of State of the Union for Folds. We just went through our most recent scholarship cycle. We were able to award 11,000 scholarships to recipients across the country, bringing that total in awards to 53 million this past year. But collectively, since inception, 73,000 scholarships across, every single state in the country, and $340 million dispersed. So Folds is continuing to grow the mission, really our community within the golf space, and just talking about how that has accelerated in the last couple of years with these content creators will be a fun thing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's incredible to hear about. All the work you guys have been doing and just the way it seems to be growing kind of year over year, and kind of in line with that growth and just the general growth of the game of golf, like generally speaking, right? Since COVID, I mean, a massive explosion in terms of number of participants and kind of just general interest in the game, and how Folds of Honor, is making use of that and kind of capitalizing that in furthering its mission. But digging into kind of the subject generally of this podcast, although we kind of go all over the place, but working with content creators. You've made some big splashes recently working with guys like the Bryan Bros, as well as partnering on a co-branded apparel line with Good Good, which I definitely want to talk about in just a minute. But in the context of working with these types of people, the exchange and the reasons for doing so really are pretty self-explanatory for most golf brands. You want to sell more clubs, gloves, golf balls, what have you, and usually paying a content creator to use and showcase that product helps generate that revenue. But at Folds of Honor, you guys are trying to fundraise for a great cause through a lot of different means. How does your work with content creators help Folds of Honor achieve its goals?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just the whole content creator ecosystem is absolutely amazing. I've got 2 daughters. They are teenagers. And I remember when my 16-year-old was about 6, 7, and she was sitting on a tablet at the time looking at these YouTube videos. And I remember peering over her shoulder and I'm like, what is this? And it was a young kid, Ryan, on his channel opening presents and toys. And that was the way that that particular area really accelerated. It was actually my first introduction to content creators and their reach and the community that they form. It's the authentic messaging to an audience that is engaged and trusts them. And it's been so crazy to watch it grow since. And in my next experience was really the Bryan Bros. I'm from the Carolinas. Bryan Bros are from the Carolinas. I remember seeing these guys doing trick shots. I'm like, what is this? But you couldn't look away. And it's just this growth of the area, and then how it kind of has come to Folds. And it came to Folds very organically in a way that I think kind of puts the exclamation mark on their work. So Greenside Cigars is a cigar company that partnered with Bubby. And we had also partnered with Greenside Cigars. So through Greenside Cigars, they introduced us to Bubby, who we realized very quickly had a lot of different connections to Folds. Grew up playing golf at American Dunes, which is a home course of Folds of Honor, really where Folds was founded. Really connected in faith, which we're a very faith-based organization. So there's a lot of connectivity. And that just turned into a relationship that grew between him and Lieutenant Colonel Rooney in a super, super authentic way. Bobby came out to the Patriot, which is where we're headquartered in Owasso, Oklahoma, played golf with one of our recipients, a young boy who had lost his father when he was just a baby, and took the time to make sure there was true brand alignment. And from there, what it did was formed a greater relationship with Good as a brand. And so starting with Greenside Cigars, getting to know Lieutenant Colonel Rooney, coming out and joining us on our kind of home turf and playing golf. And then what has happened from there is the connections that we have made together through Jack Nicklaus and the Memorial Tournament, stemming into this incredible merchandise collaboration we did, which for us is just, it's reaching an audience that we don't necessarily have. Our demographic is a little bit more in that 50 to 65 year age group, because established and being able to give back to an organization. But there's this massively growing group of 18 to 34-year-old golfers that Good is so engaged with. So when they came to us and said, hey, we want to do a collaboration, a hat, a shirt, and a polo, what do you guys think? We were all in. And within 48 hours, they had sold through almost 80% of this collection to, like I'm saying, is an audience that really doesn't know Folds, but they trust Good. And so it expands our reach. And it also allows them to engage with Folds. And we're an organization so mission driven that I think it also brings more authenticity, I guess, to even the Good brand. So it's been a pretty neat journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so to clarify, it sounds, I just want to make sure I heard you right. So Good reached out to you guys initially about this concept?
Well, we were actually connected through Greenside Cigars, which was a partner that they were working with. So it was actually through their partnerships that we were introduced to each other.
Well, you brought up another really interesting point about, the mission and kind of the alignment with content creators and how those, brand ideals or mission statements, really, they have to work right between the brand and between the content creator. Talking to a lot of these folks who are, again, on the content creation side, they're very choosy about, okay, who am I willing to work with? Do they reflect values that I hope to represent? Do they reflect the sort of lifestyle that I hope to represent? And it was really interesting to kind of hear from the creator perspective as to how that works. Because, just me, hand up, I would have figured, hey, if they're willing to pay you, like, I'll do whatever. But from a brand standpoint, obviously, Folds has a very clear and very, awesome and great opportunity and great kind of message that they're putting out there. How important is it when you're looking at content creators to work with that they really, again, align with some of those values? Have you ever kind of had to talk yourself out of working with somebody because they don't quite work, or do you feel in any way that you're fishing in a smaller pond as a result when you're working with these creators?
Alignment is super key. It's key for us. It's key for them. And we have got to make sure we've got the alignment before we really start to form what we want to be a lasting relationship. We don't want this to be a one-off, come out to an event, jump on a YouTube, stream something live and then be gone. We want it to be a lasting relationship. And there are times that, we have had connections that we realize on both sides, this isn't going to be the best use of our voice. And I think that is okay. You don't have to align with everyone. And I think that's also part of the unique structure of content creators is having a really strong voice and making sure you're authentic to your community. And not every community totally overlaps. Something that is really, really important to us is that content creators that we work with see the value of our military and our first responders and have the same appreciation we do. I think also to have several other threads, whether someone served in the family previously or any connection like that is so great for the things that both of us do well, is a storytelling that we can do through our mission with them. And likewise, the storytelling they can do from their own unique perspective. So brand alignment is absolutely key as we're looking to grow both sides of it together.
Certainly. So you talked about kind of the origins of Folds of Honor and dating back all the way to 2007, certainly predating the large scale emergence of social media, at least as the multi-billion-dollar industry that it is today. And, I know you weren't a part of Folds all the way back then, but you did join in 2018, still ahead of the curve, especially in the golf social media space. Talked about COVID and post-COVID kind of being the real growth period for that and just skyrocketing, from there. How have you seen social media and utilizing these creators become a more important or integral part of your role and your business plan at Folds?
Yeah, the social media component has been huge. Although I came on board formally with Folds of Honor in 2018, I've actually supported the mission since the very beginning. And I did it in a way that utilized social media. So I did something called a golf marathon. My team and I would get together at the club. We would reach out to friends and family through text, social media, whatever form we could to reach the largest audience and ask them for a pledge per hole played. And so that has been a very unique perspective for me to bring to Folds of Honor in 2018 when I came on the team, is that golf fundraising doesn't always have to live in a very traditional space, which might be, a green grass golf tournament. People come, they're all under one umbrella, they raise money and then they leave. There is a greater reach to an audience that wants to be engaged with something if they trust who is talking to them. And that's where this golf marathon thing really took off. When we got into COVID, it was super interesting because I think everyone kind of looked around and we're seeing life shut down around us. And we're like, but wait, we might not be able to do, like I said, this traditional golf tournament, but we can continue to do peer-to-peer fundraising through social media means like golf marathons. And so when actually kind of the rest of the world went very quiet, we skyrocketed with people still looking to give back and be engaged through any means they could. And that was really online. It's kind of, taken us to where we are now, and being able to see the type of reach that content creators have. The audience that they're building is just absolutely amazing. And the tour recognizes it. PGA of America recognizes it. The USGA recognizes it. And these big entities in the golf space with Titleist. And so it's really incredible to watch everyone sort of dabble in these different places. And, traditional broadcast viewership might be down, but in general, golf viewership is not at all. So as time progresses, it's going to be really interesting to see how these different media platforms kind of come together. I think the lines are kind of blur back and forth, but content creators are absolutely here to stay in an incredible way to partner and reach audiences that otherwise you would not be able to, or it'd take a longer time. I mean, these guys they are absolute experts with talking in a meaningful way.
Yeah, the idea about reaching a new audience, I think, is extremely interesting and relevant in that, you talk about your previous kind of top media segment, I guess, kind of being the older, more traditional golfers, and especially when it comes to donating money. I mean, you're right. The older person generally has more expendable income to contribute to things like Folds of Honor. But I guess in terms of tapping into that younger demographic, was partnering with content creators, was that really kind of your first time you saw like elevated levels of success in that market? Has that kind of been the biggest boon from working with folks like the Bryan Bros, is really that growth in that sector? I'm just curious how much that has changed in terms of how much bigger the younger audience has become as a part of your business plan as a result of the work you've been doing with content creators.
Yeah, and younger audience is always a target. Because we want to make sure that they're aware, they know we're out there. And it's kind of interesting because we have a golf tournament at American Dunes, the Folds of Honor Collegiate. We bring in about 150 collegiate players across the country, and we educate them about folds in a very traditional way. We just came off our fourth collegiate, and it was awesome, absolutely awesome. And there are times that we step away from that. And we're like, so we only get those kids for one time out of the year, a very short amount of time. How are we speaking to them? And last year, we did something a little bit unique. We had Bubby come to the collegiate. And the way that these collegiate athletes lit up and engaged with them, there was a young lady who was in top 3 in the last day, leading the field, and stopped between 17 and 18 to take a picture with him. Totally stopped tournament play. So the reach that content creators have to this audience is incredible. It's then what do you do with it? And so I think that's a place where we're still trying to figure out, like, hey, we've got the reach, we've got these partnerships, and they are incredible. And I think it's more of a long-term play. We've got to keep on educating, letting these kids know the impact of Folds of Honor, how we work together with brands like Good. Another example with the collegiate, which has been really, really cool and very intentional, is our relationship with Foresight. So Foresight, they have launch monitors, absolutely incredible launch monitors. And they are really getting into the digital space with competition. And so Foresight was out at this year's Folds of Honor Collegiate. We set up an absolutely incredible simulation tent at the hotel, had all the players come in, play against each other. And then at the end of it, the Bryan Bros played against the finalists of this competition. And again, it's just another example of how the kids get excited to be around these content creators. And that excitement is also what builds credibility with us as a partner. And so that is where we are getting into this space. It hasn't been by accident, but it's also been pretty natural.
Yeah. Looking at that College Royale, I think is what it was called, with the Bryan Bros and the awesome activation with the simulators. And again, coinciding with the Folds of Honor Collegiate Tournament, and again, that's grown into one of the big, massive programs. You name it, are competing in this event. But focusing on kind of the activation with the Bryan Bros, just like I would love some insight into how that came to be. What was the process from idea to activation? How'd you make it happen?
Yeah, so the idea came to be, sat down with Foresight, talking about different ways that we can work together. Brian Bros, our partner with Foresight. And so as we started forming this idea, this incredible experience that no other collegiate tournament offers, Brian Bros were such a natural element to bring in. Not only do they play collegially, play on tour, have a huge voice, and also starting their own college tournament, but they have an existing connection with so many of these players through their channels. And so we did some live streaming during the actual event, working on a larger YouTube video to go out. So it just sort of solidifies our place in the collegiate space through our event. But more so than that, keeps the Folds of Honor mission in front of these kids. So when the opportunity comes where they really want to invest in something that's, doing a greater good than maybe just playing golf, they know Folds of Honor is a trusted place that they can turn.
Yeah. And looking at it kind of from the business side, again, that's where I intersect with it, right? Is working with a lot of these content creators to host them at other golf resorts or try out golf products. And again, for people, especially like the Brian Bros and Good, obviously, like this is their line of work. So usually working with them involves some sort of kind of exchange monetarily or otherwise. But with you guys at Folds, again, being a not-profit, obviously, but also just a place that so many people want to support and want to give to, do you find that a lot of these creators are just like, hey, no, like I actually really just want to support you guys and help in any way that I can? Or do you still approach it in a lot of ways from like a business transactional standpoint?
I think it's going to be a blend, especially as we go into the future. We have been incredibly fortunate to have ambassadors, to include some content creators, come on board and say, hey, my fee is a give back to you and to make sure that we're growing the Folds of Honor mission. Do I think that's going to evolve pretty quickly in some instances? For sure. I could see that. I think it would be silly for any business to not look at that as they're starting to put together marketing budgets, because the influence and the reach outweighs maybe some of those fees that are just associated with normal business practices anyway. So not an area that we have really been in, but certainly I think it's an area that every nonprofit and growing business is going to be working in very quickly.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, I've personally really learned from a lot of these conversations with creators is like, again, once you've made that decision that, hey, like creating YouTube content, like pays my bills. So, we ask them like, hey, can you come out to XYZ course and play? And a lot of times my initial reaction when they ask for money is like, what, like we're offering like a free golf trip, blah, blah, blah. But then I remember like, if you come out here for 4 days, like that's 4 days that you're not getting paid technically, right? Like they got families to support just like everybody else. And so it is, as you say, a very natural process, but as expected, I'm not surprised to hear that plenty of folks, are also just super willing to say, hey, like Folds is an important mission to me. I'm happy to work with them. And we've talked to Evan Thompson. I know he's a big creator down here in Georgia. And he was even repping a Folds of Honor head cover, like before ever like working with you guys. So I imagine there's lots of kind of, oh, wow, you're actually already aware of our brand or already kind of down with our mission. Does that happen a decent bit?
Right. Yeah. No, we are very fortunate. There are a lot of people that have already experienced Folds of Honor through the game of golf. We're so heavy in the brand. We've got these great partnerships with the PGA Tour, PGA America, USGA. And so it doesn't surprise me that, as we have more and more conversations with content creators, they are pretty aware of the mission. And some of them are looking to engage in different ways. But I think being an open to ideation, open to brand growth, open to partnering. I mean, we bring a credibility and a mission-driven organization to maybe some of these individuals that don't quite have that. And so if we can work together, and I think both sides will succeed. And it's such a fast-growing area. it's super exciting to see where it will be in the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, it's absolutely the Wild West in terms of growth, but really cool to hear about how you guys are kind of getting involved again. You've mentioned the collaboration with Good Good, having the co-branded merchandise. Before I get you out of here, looking ahead in terms of either work again with Good Good on more apparel or next year's collegiate events. What are some things that you guys at Folds of Honor are super excited about working with creators or otherwise coming up?
We're excited about continuing to grow our reach. I think we're most excited right now to do that through content creators who believe in our mission and want to do good for their own business, for the game of golf, but also for these military and first responder recipients. So we're super excited about getting more and more into the digital space, understanding how our audience reacts to that. And I think sharing that audience with each other, it's something I didn't really mention, but it is interesting. Not only do content creators bring a younger audience, but I think what happens through these partnerships, especially in the golf base, is that they are then brought maybe a more seasoned audience. And so it's like everything grows together. And I think that collaboration is super, super key. One other thing, before we jumped on this call, I had an email pop up, and it just happened to be a good email that came out about their most current collab, which is with Shady Rays. That's awesome. Super cool. Something that these influencers do so well is they still continue to give a nod to other partners, because in the picture of, Bubby, it was Bubby in the picture with the Shady Rays on. He had a Folds of Honor hat turned backwards with a logo on the side. And that's where these guys are brilliant. They don't miss the opportunities to continue to grow those they work with, even if in an indirect way. So they are a brilliant group, and everyone needs to watch how they work and try to adopt some of those principles.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for taking some time to join us, Sara. Really appreciate it. And yeah, best of luck with everything going forward with Folds of Honor. People, be sure to check them out online as well as their social channels. And again, really appreciate the time, Sara.